So we're starting a new series. This one a little shorter. Last series was the 100 Years War by Kings and Generals. So we're jumping to epic history right now. We're going to be watching the rise of the Abbasids, Islam's mightiest dynasty, and I believe this is going to be about the Abbasid Caliphate. And this is going to be a new interesting area of history that we have not covered. Kind of we've covered, Rome, um and I guess the pagan Hellenistic practices of then, and then onward to Christianity and Europe. We're going to be covering the Islam, and this is going to be a new area of history to be covering, and one that we haven't really looked into, so I'm really looking forward to this. I'm also looking forward that it's only 2 parts, as far as I can tell. Yeah, so as far as I can tell, there are only 2 videos in this series. Their rise, their fall, and then the video that combines both parts. So, yeah, overall, I'm going to be watching both of these, and they're going to come out today, and then part 2 is coming out tomorrow. So, yeah, overall, let's just get to it. I'm really looking forward to learning about this. I wish I could add more commentary, but I can't pretend that I'm fully aware of what this part of history is or anything. But, with the title of Islam's Mightiest Dynasty, I know we're in for like a really good series, because this has been recommended to me, and it's finally time to deliver. So let's get to it, guys. Let's watch the rise of the Abbasids, Islam's mightiest dynasty.
In the 8th century Middle East, a new dynasty seized control of one of the world's greatest empires, the Islamic Caliphate. Though little remembered in the West today, the Abbasids reigned for 5 centuries. They oversaw an era of Islamic military dominance, city building, brilliant scholarship, and technological innovation. It has come to be remembered as Islam's golden age. This is the story of the Abbasid Caliphate.
Abbasid, okay. I don't know, I was trying to say Abbasid because that's like what Google said, but I'll just say Abbasid. So yeah, like I said, here westward, we don't really learn anything about this, so I'm very ignorant of this. So it's pretty cool to be studying the Middle East and what's going on. I guess the most we've gotten is kind of like Alexander's conquest going eastward, and some of the Ottoman Empire has appeared, like when we covered Michael the Brave and whatnot. So, but we haven't fully delved deeply into the Middle East and eastward. In history, we've mainly stuck in the West, Rome, Europe. That's mainly the only part of history we've mainly covered on this channel. So, yeah, like I said, this is just new frontier, new territory to explore, and I'm really looking forward to like learning about this.
632 AD. In the Arabian city of Medina, the Prophet Muhammad lies dead. His followers, professing the new religion of Islam, sweep across the Arabian Peninsula, uniting it under the rule of Abu Bakr, the first Caliph, God's deputy on earth. Then they burst upon the world stage, taking on the 2 superpowers of the Middle East, the Eastern Roman and Sassanid empires. Both are vulnerable after decades of war, and the Muslims wage a stunning campaign, winning victory after victory. By 651, they have overrun 2/3 of the Eastern Roman...
Holy crap, they just completely absorbed the Sassanids. And we kind of covered some of it. I think it may have been mentioned. Mainly, like I said, when I know most about the Middle East, we usually hear about the Ottomans, right? How the Ottomans dealt the death blow to Rome, and that's kind of it. And we kind of dealt with their rising thing. And the thing is, like, with the Ottomans, eventually holy leagues were built, crusades and whatnot. to check the power of Islam, because Islam was just growing so quick, and like Christianity was like, oh no, they're getting too close to us, like, you know. So yeah, but like, just look at that, that's insane.
Empire and almost all of the Sassanid Empire. But in 656, the third caliph, Uthman, is assassinated, sparking the first Muslim civil war, or fitna. Ali, cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, has the support of the people. But he's opposed by the governor of Syria, Uthman's kinsman, Muawiyah. 5 years of bloodshed culminate in Ali's assassination at Kufa. Muawiyah emerges triumphant and establishes a new Umayyad caliphate. Further conquests help to forge one of the largest empires in history. But it is riven by more civil war. One challenge comes from Hussein, son of Ali, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. He opposes the succession of Muawiyah's son, Yazid.
Yeah, so I've mentioned this a few times that, you know, I went to school, I learned in theology. Like, for instance, I've gone to normal secular college where I got my bachelor's in English, and, you know, I went to Bible college and I got a bachelor's in theology. And, you know, we did learn a bit about Islam, mainly about the Prophet Muhammad, who is, you know, he's up there, obviously, as the important figure of Islam. And, like, you know, the story goes that he met with the archangel, Gabriel. Sorry, I always get Michael Gabriel, but Gabriel, and, you know, basically became you know, God's prophet. By the way, I have to be very careful. Religion, like I said, on my other channel, which you see in the corner, the side right here, I'm not sure what side it'll appear, but you'll see my other channel, which is called Edwin de Jesus. I talk about theology on that channel and whatnot, so I usually save it for that. But yeah, I have to watch my words, because religion, more than anything, is enough to get you, like, to really ruffle feathers if you get things wrong, you know? People are quick to offense when it comes to religion. Heck, I remember I've said a few times, I'm a Christian, you know, I believe in Jesus Christ, I'm a follower. I lost subscribers because of that. Like, I remember, like, one of my community posts, I stated that, and I, like, lost, like, 3 to 4 subs just because of that. You know, bye, I guess. But, like, but yeah, essentially the Prophet Muhammad visited by the angel Gabriel, as it's told, and, you know, basically becomes God's prophet, and a lot happens. I'm not going to go through everything, but, you know, it's interesting because it falls in the line of the Abrahamic, Judean, Christian, Islamic, religion, like, you know, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Yeah, it's called the Abrahamic religion. It's funny because it falls into that category. And, you know, the Torah, the first 5 books, the Jewish Torah is like the first 5 books of the Christian Bible. And, you know, the Quran, I read some of it, I haven't read all of it, but, you know, kind of does cover some same ground as, you know, that, essentially, as Christianity, you know, covering certain, stories such as, you know, the creation, Abraham, obviously, King David, like, you know, all that, though they're added information. There's a lot to it, even in just, like, if you look at one area, like just Christianity, there's so many different, you know, you've heard schisms, you've heard different denominations, and then some people are like, you can't add these books to the Bible, others are like, you can. There's a lot to religion that I won't break down right now, but obviously it's just interesting, you know. Islam of the Abrahamic religions, at least through the Quran and whatnot, is the youngest of the three, you know. So yeah, it's just very interesting, you know, just to see all that and just how powerful you see the rise of Islam, and this just came out of nowhere, right? Like through the Romans and the Sassanids, just blew up and just became like such a powerful force in the world, which kind of does go to show you the power of religious fervor, I think, and how big of a motivator faith is. You know, when you make something a holy war, it kind of just, or you know, like, you know, like, sorry, I'm like trying to not say anything wrong right now. Also, I'm kind of a little brain dead because I'm doing finals. I'm in my final week of this semester of school, but yeah, it's just like when you make something a holy war, I think like when you're like, oh, God's on my side, it kind of like motivates people, I would say, more than any other thing, you know, except maybe like nationalism, like loving your country and be willing to fight and die for it. Yeah, there's just something about religion and, you know, with the idea that God's on your side that just makes people so much more, I guess, like, powerful and unwilling, unrelenting, you know, in pursuing their goals, you know. So, it is interesting, I just have to say. And also because of just how much religion will play a part, you know, like with the Crusades, the conflict between Islam and Christianity, which I'm not sure if it'll come up that much, so I'm not sure why I went on this long tangent. I just really find it interesting. You want to hear me talk more about it, go over to my other channel, Edwin de Jesus, where I unabashedly talk about religion and faith, you know.
But in 680, he and his followers are defeated and killed at the Battle of Karbala. Supporters of Ali and his descendants will later become the Shiites. They still commemorate Hussein's death each year on the day of Ashura. The vast Umayyad Caliphate continues to expand, but it contains serious internal divisions. Much of what we know about the Umayyad Caliphate comes from later sources, often hostile. But it seems clear that the small Arab Muslim elite that dominated this great empire was increasingly unpopular with many of its subjects, including some of those later termed dhimmi. These were non-Muslims, including Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians, who were treated as an underclass and made to pay extra tax. Even those who did convert to Islam, known as Mawali, were often treated as second-class subjects. Decades of discontent were about to boil over. The symbol of Umayyad authority was their white banner. But in 747, a new symbol rises to challenge their rule: the black banners of the Abbasids. The Abbasids are an Arab family, descended from the Prophet Muhammad's uncle Al-Abbas, from whom they take their name. They and their supporters believe this blood tie to the Prophet gives them legitimate claim to the title of Caliph, far more so than the Umayyads, whom the Abbasids later portray as decadent and despised. The Abbasids promise a return to true Islam, to correct teachings and moral leadership, and send missionaries and agents out across the Caliphate to spread their message. In 747, with the Caliphate once more racked by revolt and civil war, the Abbasids will seize their chance. In eastern Khurasan, a general named Abu Muslim, probably a Persian convert, launches a revolt and takes the black banner of the Hashemites as his symbol. The Hashemites, descendants of Hashim, are the extended family of the Prophet, with the Abbasids prominent amongst them. This frontier region, today comprising northeastern Iran and parts of Turkmenistan and Afghanistan, is particularly ripe for rebellion. Here, Arabs and non-Arab converts live side by side. They intermarry and fight alongside each other to defend the frontier. For many, the Umayyads are distant and unpopular overlords. What's more, opposition has been stoked for decades by Hashemite agents and missionaries who seek to topple the Umayyads and replace them with one of their own. They have sowed the seeds of revolution. So when Abu Muslim begins his revolt, he quickly attracts followers, Arabs, Persians and Central Asians, many of whom are experienced warriors. And he proves a brilliant commander, winning a series of victories over Umayyad forces and occupying Kufa, capital of Iraq, in 749. The Abbasids now assume leadership of this revolution. And the following year, their forces meet the army of the Umayyad Caliph, Marwan II, at the Zab River. Most of what we know about the battle that follows comes from Abbasid sources. Caliph Marwan appears to have been a brave but reckless commander, launching a head-on cavalry charge against the Abbasid line. Abbasid historians tell how their own troops, inspired by recent victories, stand fast. Their spear walls repel the cavalry. The attack ends in disaster. Umayyad morale is broken, their army routed. Marwan himself flees the battle, but is pursued and killed in Egypt. Other Umayyads are likewise hunted down and exterminated. Even graves are desecrated. One surviving member of the dynasty, Abd al-Rahman, flees to Spain. Just a few years later, he establishes the Emirate of Cordoba, a second Umayyad dynasty that would flourish in Iberia for centuries.
Yeah, I did notice that when he was showing the large influence that Islam had, how it broke into Spain. I never knew it got into Spain itself. That's beyond interesting. So yeah, I could see why Europe was beyond afraid. So yeah, it's just like how fast it exploded, right?
Abul Abbas al-Saffah becomes the first Abbasid Caliph, though it will take the Abbasids more than a decade to consolidate their hold on power. Al-Saffah moves the Caliph's residence from Haran to Kufa, closer to the Abbasid power base in Persia. In 751, he sends an army to curb the westward expansion of the Chinese Tang dynasty. The campaign culminates in a bloody victory at the Battle of Talas, but also marks the limit of the Caliphate's eastward expansion.
Why is everyone spiraling over YouTube banning ad blockers? Like, chill guys, just use Pi. It's a free Chrome extension.
Who'd helped overthrow the Umayyads had sought the end of hereditary rule and a return to caliphs elected from within an elite group. They are to be disappointed. In 754, Al-Saffah is succeeded by his brother Al-Mansur. The Abbasids will be the new ruling dynasty, and Al-Mansur will prove one of its greatest caliphs. But his reign begins inauspiciously with the execution of the brilliant and popular General Abu Muslim, now regarded as a potentially dangerous rival. Al-Mansur faces rebellion by the Alids, a powerful clan descended from the Prophet's son-in-law, Ali. They resent the growing dynastic power of the Abbasids and press their own claim to rule. Al-Mansur crushes the last major Alid revolt in 762, ushering in an era of stability, prosperity, and peace. That year, he orders the construction of a new capital on the banks of the Tigris River. Officially, it is to be known as Madinat as-Salam, the City of Peace. It will prove his greatest legacy, a city that will become one of the glories of the medieval world. Baghdad.
Ah, yes. Baghdad. Yes. Also, I think I've heard of the... Wait, just to be sure. Okay, I was gonna talk about, like, the House of Wisdom, the Baghdad House of Wisdom, which was, you know, kind of like, almost, like, you can almost compare it to, like, in terms of, like, sorts of knowledge and all that, to, like, I don't know, was it the Library of Alexandria? You know what I mean. I knew about that at the very least, so it's cool to see that origin right here, make that connection, you know, where Baghdad and what would come from it. So, yeah, this has just been very interesting, you know. Like I said, this is all very new to me for the most part. That's why I'm being awfully silent. Yeah, I feel bad sometimes when I'm just sitting listening, but it's like I don't really have anything to add because I don't really know. You know, I'm just learning for the most part and trying to absorb all of this into my head. Yeah. Did you not see how the sun came out of hiding on Harun's ascension and flooded the world with light?
In the reign of Al-Mansur's grandson, Harun al-Rashid, the caliphate flourishes as never before, with Baghdad at its heart. There are many legends told about Caliph Harun al-Rashid, the rightly guided. He is, after all, a central figure in 1001 Nights, the masterpiece of Arabic literature.
Yes, the 100 and... The 1000 and... Why can't I speak today? 1001 Nights. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, man. Yeah, I actually have read some of this. It is, you know, it contains a lot of epic stories for the most part. And, you know, like Sinbad. Yeah, sorry, I used Google Translate right now because I'm about to say certain words. So, you know, Sinbad is one of the stories associated with the 1001 Nights. And there's also Aladdin, which is a very famous one, obviously, mainly most people know from the Disney cartoon. And basically, like, the framing device, we covered this, like, in a class of mine, about, like, Latin literature, and, like, one of the stories was heavily inspired by, you know, Middle Eastern, culture, and, like, basically the framing device is that a king, you know, has an unfaithful wife. He then proceeds to start marrying people every night, but he kills them, so he just keeps marrying and killing people, his new wife, but one of his wives named Scheherazade? Wait. Scheherazade. Yeah, and basically she's like, you know, Scheherazade basically tells, like, the king, you know, let me tell you a story, and then she tells a story at the night, but, like, kind of leaves a cliffhanger for more to be desired, so he can't kill her because he wants to keep hearing the stories, and so it keeps going on until eventually, at the very end, he's like, you know what, you told me so many stories, I'm not going to kill you. I don't know, it's unique, there's so much to it, there's all kinds of things, you got ghouls, and, you know, jinn and whatnot, there's a lot to it, it is, wait, crap. Yeah, I jumped to the wrong video for a second there. Man, I'm all over the place this video. I'm sorry, guys. This is, like, my most unhinged, unorganized video. But, yeah, this is just one of the great works of literature. And also it's called Arabian Nights. But he already put it there. So, yeah.
The image of al-Rashid that reaches us from such sources is of a devout, wise and beneficent ruler who prayed 100 times a day and each morning gave 1,000 dirhams to good causes. In legend, al-Rashid wandered the streets of Baghdad disguised as a beggar to see how his subjects lived. He was a brilliant horseman and patron of the arts, and a keen chess player. His court was a place where religion and philosophy could be argued and debated.
Oh my god, my classmate was caught using ChatGPT. The professor was very angry.
Debated openly, even on occasion by a woman. In the Caliphate, as in the rest of the medieval world, few women held high status in their own right. But as mothers, wives and concubines, they could exert huge influence. Al-Khazuran, once a Yemeni slave girl, rose from concubine to Caliph's wife and wielded significant power during the reign of her husband, Caliph al-Mahdi, and son, Caliph al-Rashid. Famed for her intelligence and learning, she held discussions on policy and military strategy, received foreign ambassadors, and intervened on questions of justice. Much of her own enormous wealth she spent on public works and charity. Many likened her to a co-ruler, or even the real caliph. The success of al-Rashid's reign was underpinned by efficient government and administration. Much of it was modelled on that of their predecessors, the Sassanids, and they made extensive use of Persian and Central Asian bureaucrats. Of particular note was the Barmakid family. The Barmakids were descended from high priests of the Buddhist temple of Nobahar, near Balkh, in modern Afghanistan. As early Abbasid allies, they played an important role in government, helping to foster an age of Islamic statecraft, imbued with elements of Sasanian Persian culture. They served the Abbasids well for 3 generations, but the power games of court could be dangerous and unpredictable. In 803, al-Rashid decided the Barmakids had got a little too big for their boots. The family experienced a sudden and dramatic fall from favour, with many of its members imprisoned or executed. Their demise ended Barmakid control of the post of vizier, a position that had recently emerged at court as the Caliph's senior advisor and chief minister.
Yeah, the vizier, I've heard of this, you know, it's often, you know, I think in like some stories, like, again, you could say like Aladdin, you know, there's like the Sultan, you know, the guy in charge, and then there's the Grand Vizier, which is like usually always depicted as wearing like those big hats, kind of like Jafar, and, you know, kind of whispering, giving advice to the Sultan, sometimes usually portrayed evilly, you know, like an evil influencer force, like I guess in stories, but, you know, that's kind of why I know this word specifically and like the kind of role and function.
It was a role of enormous significance. Some viziers would later wield so much power they overshadowed the Caliph himself. The fame of al-Rashid's court spread far and wide. Charlemagne, king of the Franks, Holy Roman Emperor and the most powerful ruler in Europe, sent several embassies to Baghdad. In return, al-Rashid sent him dazzling gifts, including perfume, ivory chessboards, a marvelous water clock, and even an elephant named Abu Abbas, which lived for several years at Charlemagne's court in Aachen. Cultural life in the Caliphate, and Baghdad in particular, was remarkably cosmopolitan. The Abbasid court even celebrated Persian holidays, such as Nowruz, Persian New Year. Such open-mindedness helped the Caliphate to flourish as a center of culture, science, arts and medicine. The center of learning was the city's famous library, Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom.
Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. I'm glad I got that right. The Baghdad House of Wisdom, which I've heard about, you know. I'm happy I got that right. I'm always happy when I get something right, because I'm always second-guessing myself in these videos, you know.
Though little of its function is known today. Here and across the Caliphate, scholars translated classical works from Greek, Middle Persian and Sanskrit into Arabic. Their efforts ensured the survival of countless works that would otherwise have been lost, including those by great figures such as Aristotle and Galen. They also made many of their own original discoveries, knowledge that would come to be much sought after by the medieval West. Baghdad's scholars led the world in many fields. Al-Kindi, known as the philosopher of the Arabs, was a famed polymath who wrote on logic, psychology, astronomy, astrology, and many other topics. Al-Khwarizmi's contribution to mathematics led to him being dubbed the father of algebra. The Latin...
Oh man, so this is the man who made my life a living hell back in high school. No, I'm joking. I'm not a math guy, guys. Math and science, I never did well in. Especially math. So like when I went into, you know, university and college, I, you know, mainly only done like English, because that's where I excel at. English, writing, literature. But I have a lot of respect for those who excel in math and science, because I think those fields are so important, and I wish that I have had the mind for it personally. But yeah, overall, it's just cool to see just how, you know, sometimes it's nice to marvel at the intelligence of humanity, and just, yeah, I would love to go to places like the House of Wisdom, or, you know, the Library of Alexandria. It's just like sources of ancient knowledge. Like, what did they have, right? Like, you know, like at its peak, just learning from that. Like, what great wisdom or knowledge could it be gained from, you know, these people? I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, if I could just make wishes, I would kind of want to do that. You know, I would like to see this firsthand, you know, and be around all these learned men.
Version of his name, Algorithmus, is the origin of our word algorithm. The Christian scholar Hunayn ibn Ishaq was nicknamed the Sheikh of Translators for his role translating ancient texts into Arabic. Material culture also flourished under the Abbasids, with the introduction of glazed pottery in the 9th century, allowing new artistic possibilities. Many colourful pieces, decorated with animals and Kufic lettering, have been discovered across the former caliphate from this period. The Abbasid Caliphate also benefited from its position astride the Silk Roads, the name for the ancient network of trade routes linking Europe and Asia.
Yeah, I've heard of the Silk Roads. Also, we covered like this stuff mainly from like the history of the world, I guess. So it's definitely cool to see that. I'm happy that I'm recognizing some things like the Silk Road. I think even I've learned about that like a long time ago in one of my history classes. So yeah, I mean, the Middle Eastern area is a very, you know, we kind of associate it with a lot of conflict and whatnot, but there are some advantageous things to it, like in terms of trading and whatnot. So there's a lot to it, you know. It's nice to see some of the more positives of it, because again, when most people talk about the Middle East, it's always never enough in the kindest of lights. You know what I mean. But it's nice to just see like its contribution to the world, like, and what it's doing, and like, I don't know, I just find it so interesting, and like seeing its connections into literature, math, here in trade and whatnot. Like, there's just so much to it, which I'm really enjoying at the moment.
Valuable imports travelled along this route, such as silk, spices, ivory, gemstones, and even thoroughbred horses. To encourage this trade, the Abbasids built new roads, as well as inns, hospices, and wells for the comfort of travellers. New ideas and technology also flowed along the Silk Roads. Chinese paper-making techniques first reached the Muslim world under the Umayyads, but it was under the Abbasids that paper production really took off. Much cheaper than parchment or papyri, abundant supplies of paper transformed the practice of administration and bookmaking, and helped medieval Islam to become one of the most bookish cultures in world history.
He adopted a cap on which was written the words, "Warrior for the Faith, Pilgrim." Oh, it's been nice knowing you, Rome. I can't escape Rome on this channel, can I? One way or another, Rome always pops back up. Like last year, in 2024, I feel like all we did was watch a crapload of Napoleon and a crapload of Rome videos. Like, and then I'm like, here I am, mainly so far in this year, I'm just kind of like, you know, covering random recommendations from people, but it's like, it's like I can never, when they say all roads lead to Rome, they're not joking. Like, one way or another, even when I don't intend to, Rome will pop up. I can't escape the Roman Empire, guys.
In the 7th century, the first Arab conquests had pushed the frontier of the Eastern Roman Empire back to the Taurus Mountains. Since then, the Caliphate and Empire had been in a state of almost perpetual war, with frequent raids by both sides across the Syrian frontier. Twice the Arabs had even besieged Constantinople itself, but failed to take the great city. In 782, al-Rashid himself had led an Abbasid force as far as the shores of the Bosphorus. By 804, the Eastern Roman Empire was paying annual tribute to the Caliphate. When Emperor Nikephoros stopped the payments, an Abbasid army crossed the Taurus Mountains and took his army by surprise at Knossos. The Romans suffered a heavy defeat. The emperor himself was lucky to escape with his life. The cycle
Introducing the Anchor Prime charging station.
of raid and counter-raid continued for years, with al-Rashid even moving the Abbasid capital to Raqqa to be closer to the frontier. But this fixation on his rival to the west may have blinded the Caliph to trouble in the east. In 809, news arrived of revolt in Khorasan. It was while traveling east to face down this rebellion that Caliph Harun al-Rashid became sick and died. His 22-year reign would come to be seen as a golden age for the Abbasid Caliphate, a time of prosperity, stability, intellectual and cultural achievement. But al-Rashid's own efforts to ensure a peaceful succession were about to backfire disastrously and plunge the Caliphate back into civil war. In the second and final part of Islam's Golden Age, we chart the catastrophe of renewed civil war, the rise of a new caste of slave soldiers, and the devastating onslaught of the Mongols.
Holy crap, the Mongols are coming. Yeah. Yeah, I know about the Mongols. Dang. Okay, guys. Well, I'm gonna jump to part 2. I have to say that this was really just enlightening. I love learning about this. I love that we've jumped to a new area in history, and yeah, I'm just looking really much forward to just seeing more about this. So I'll see you guys in the next video tomorrow. Bye, everyone.